Welcome back to the Sporting Eyes YouTube channel and my final team reveal for AFL Supercoach 2024. Very happy with the team, kind of similar to my AFL Fantasy side that I selected. If you want to watch that, that'll be in the top right hand corner of this video. So I'm just going to explain each of the players I've picked, a little bit of the kind of tactical side of it, and just my strategy going into this season. The team has changed quite a bit from my first team reveal. Guys like Kadeen Coleman, obviously with injury, have to get taken out. But I've stuck to my guns pretty well. The kind of structure is relatively similar. So let's get into it. Nick Daicos, didn't think he had a fantastic game, and look what he does. He gets a 130. He'll be vice captain because I am going to use a loophole in this team as well, like I was using in my AFL Fantasy one. Daicos played purely in the midfield, used the ball pretty well, contested possessions, perfect for Supercoach, so he's in. Harry Sheezel, very impressed with his performances. I don't think his kind of play will have the impact of Nick Daicos in his second year, but I think the raw numbers out of defence will be pretty similar. He'll take a lot of kickouts, and a lot of his kicking kind of through the corridor and stuff like that means his kicking efficiency will be high, but also I think he can get in those scoring change, so the score involvements inside 50s helps his Supercoach. Unique guy I'm going with is Jaden Short. He's gone under the radar. He was one of Richmond's best players, 20 kicks, 96% efficiency I think. Had the most kickouts, played on from 6 of 8 of them. So he scored the 130. It's kind of him or Tom Stewart or a Lockie Whitfield that I could go with, because I do have $57,000 in the salary left, so I can move some money to get him up to one of those kind of safer guys, but going to be aggressive. Go with a Unique and Short, who I think Adamuse is going to use a lot out of defence. He had a bit of a down year last year, and I think he can bounce back and be on par with those guys who are just a touch more expensive. So that's the reasoning with going with Jaden Short. Hayden Young, pretty good in the practice game, will get clearances, contested possessions, and still can get the intercept marks with his defensive game, and kicked a couple goals, which is a great sign. Zach Williams scored a 73. I thought he was outstanding. He shocked me how good he was. He just needs to run out the game a bit better, which I think he will improve throughout the year. Howes was really good for Melbourne, a 91. That's a great first score. Passed the eye test. I think that was important. I didn't really realise how good he was in the practice games. He's pretty tall. I think he's about 6'3", but can play on those smaller guys, get in the link-up kind of side of the game. So he's 91. Already he's into his break-even, so he's an easy pick, and I'll start him. Then Zach Reid scored a 91 in the practice game, I think. Looked pretty good. No Jordan Ridley. Hopefully that can actually boost his scoring even more. Maybe he can get a few more intercept marks and possessions, so I like him. And then Nick Caulfield was just named as a starter for the Bulldog team that will play Melbourne, so he's in. Could pay up for a Josh Gibkiss, but I'm just going to stick with Caulfield. He's a little bit cheaper, and you could go for St Kilda guy Ari Schoenmaker debuts. He's 117k. He scored very well in the practice game, so I could go with him, but I think I'm going to stick with the mature body in Caulfield. The midfield, Bonampelli hasn't left my side. Looked awesome in the practice game. Easy captain pick for most weeks. Tom Green, I think I had him in my first side, but definitely locked in. Still needs to use the ball a bit better, but he's just such a monster. 30 touches a goal. I think he can do that most weeks, and it wouldn't surprise me if he gets in that upper kind of echelon of 120 plus scorers. Touk Miller with the 116 as well. Very impressive. Again, two-way runner, perfect for Gold Coast. Has the inside game and the outside game, so he kind of complements Rao, who's mainly inside, and Anderson, who's primarily more of an outside guy. So you got the best of both worlds with Touk. Even if he doesn't get a lot of the ball, can tackle his way to a good score. Underpriced, easy pick. Nick Martin and Max Holmes in that Geelong and Essendon game were both impressive kind of out of defence. Especially Nick Martin, they look to get the ball in his hands. He just runs free, kicked a couple goals, and we'll get that defender status as well, which we can play with later in the season during the bye round. So it's pretty important. Ollie Wines was pretty good. I thought he started a bit slow against Fremantle in the practice game, but started to get going. Will be high centre bounce, pure inside mid. I think his Supercoach scores will be very solid. McKercher, Sanders and Roberts, pretty self-explanatory. McKercher out of halfback I think will be great. I know he had a kind of a lower score, but I think in the regular season with the kickouts and things like that, he should be pushing 70, 80s in most games. Sanders is outstanding, and Matt Roberts out of defence was really good, got the rising star for the opening round. Looks like he's locked down a position out of defence. Pretty good kick and just blends in nicely. Darcy Wilson as a forward, I've got in the midfield with Jeremy Sharp and Jai Clark, paying up for all of them a little bit, especially Wilson paying about $7,000 more than these two guys, but I think it's worth it. All will have good job security, pretty good roles, and I think we'll score well. This is a bit of the strategy. I'm copying my AFL fantasy team in this aspect. So Gawn and Grundy was outstanding. Was kind of off him a bit for Cherry, but when you score a 139, you have to be picked. And I think Gawn will bounce back from his 72. Conditions didn't really suit him. So even in a bad night, he still got 72. So, those dry games at the MCG against bad ruckman, I still think Gawn will feast. Then Livingston is going to be my loophole, and then we get to why he's so important, not just for that VC and captain loophole, but I'm going to pick Luke Jackson. Darcy's going to be out for possibly the first 2 months of the season, but at least I'd say around 5 or 6 weeks. And look at Luke Jackson's numbers as Fremantle ruckman last year when he was a solo and without Sean Darcy. They were off the chart. He scored a 170, but was just putting up 120 so easily. And I'm hoping he can do that because obviously I'm avoiding Isaac Heaney, who's 60,000 cheaper, who, if he can hold that roll down, will probably score pretty well in Supercoach. And then Flanders as well, who's about 50,000 cheaper than Jackson. So it's a big risk because Flanders and Heaney at the end of the year could be two of the best forwards. But I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to kind of stick to my guns. I still don't fully trust Flanders. He's kind of the 4th ranked midfielder in the rotation, so I think he could have some quieter games. And as good as Heaney is, he can still fade out of games. I think he had a career night, 13 clearances. I'm not sure he can do that every week, so I'm taking a risk and hopefully it pays off. Zach Fisher out of defence with McKercher and Shees will be good. He was actually the most impressive out of the 3 in the practice game that they played a couple weeks ago, so I like him a lot. Fife, I think his Supercoach scoring will be much better than AFL Fantasy, so I actually have some confidence for him in Supercoach. He's burnt me horribly in the past, but I'm going to back him in literally for the last time. I'm not expecting 120s or 130s, but if he can get his hands on the ball at clearance, get some nice clean handballs to Brayshaw and Sarong, and tackle well enough, surely he can get kind of the 90-ish score or something like that. Even if it's for the first couple months, just so he makes some money. But I'm going to back in Fife. James Jordan, 81, and he had a slow start, so easy pick. The role wasn't as good as I thought. He attended a few centre bounces, but was mainly on the wing. But again, I think he'll be fine. Then Harley Reid had a pretty average first practice game, but bounced back. 20 touches in the second one. That's a pretty easy pick. I've got him starting right now. And then Alex Sexton only scored a 73, was a touch low, turned it over a little bit, but they won. That halfback distributing role is there. That's a pretty easy pick. And on the bench, I've gone with Cadman because I kind of need a bit of money to get a guy like Luke Jackson in instead of a guy like Heaney or Flanders. So I can't afford a guy like Caleb Winsor, who you'd probably prefer to have. See, he's 180. So I have to go with Cadman. Scored a 55, kicked a couple goals. Hopefully he can make some money pretty quickly. And then Charlie Lazaro is my other emergency. Should get some mid-time with Simpkin out and Will Phillips, I think he's a bit ahead of. So him and Reid will kind of be a bit of a coin flip to see who gets that last spot in the forward line. So I'm pretty happy with the team. Teams I've seen have a similar structure. I think where I'm going unique is clearly Luke Jackson and Jaden Short. But I think there's more upside in those two guys when compared to, say, a Tom Stewart or Isaac Heaney combination, or a Flanders and Whitfield one. So I'm going to stick with it. Pretty happy at this stage. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys soon.